Chapter 1: The Hidden Strength of Silence. Introduction: A world that fears quiet. Take a moment and imagine sitting in a cafe. Around you, phones buzz, music plays in the background. Two friends chat loudly at the next table, and baristas shout orders. Noise feels normal. Now imagine that all of this suddenly stops. No chatter, no music, no devices, just stillness. How do you feel? For many people, silence feels awkward, even threatening. It's as if we are exposed when the background sound disappears. But what if silence is not the enemy? What if it is the most powerful communication tool we have, hidden in plain sight, overlooked in a culture obsessed with constant speaking? In this chapter, we will explore why silence is so uncomfortable, the psychological and emotional power it holds, and how using it strategically can transform the way we communicate. Why we avoid silence. Human beings are wired to fill empty spaces. From childhood, many of us were taught that conversation gaps are embarrassing. Think of the last time you were in a meeting and there was a pause. Chances are someone rushed to say something, anything, to dissolve the tension. This impulse comes from several sources. Social conditioning. We equate talk with intelligence and silence with ignorance. If I don't say something, they'll think I don't know anything. Fear of judgment. A pause may be interpreted as hesitation, weakness, or incompetence. Discomfort with self-reflection. Silence forces us to hear our own thoughts and emotions. Many of us aren't comfortable sitting with them. As a result, we live in a society where noise feels safer than quiet. But in avoiding silence, we lose access to one of the most profound tools of influence. Silence is presence, not absence. Silence is often misunderstood as a void, an absence of communication. In truth, silence is full. It is not nothing, it is something different. Think of a great piece of music. What gives rhythm and power to the notes? The spaces between them. Without pauses, music collapses into meaningless sound. The same is true of speech. Words only have power because silence frames them. In communication, silence can highlight a message, allow listeners to process information, convey confidence, build emotional connection. When we begin to see silence as presence rather than absence, we unlock its hidden strength, the psychological power of silence. Silence is not just socially impactful. It has a measurable effect on the brain. Neuroscientific research shows that brief periods of quiet allow the mind to reset. In silence, the brain consolidates memory, organizes thoughts, and strengthens connections between ideas. Consider these psychological effects. Enhanced comprehension. A pause after a statement gives a listener time to process and retain the idea. This is why skilled speakers use dramatic pauses. Stress reduction. Moments of silence lower cortisol levels, reducing anxiety for both speaker and listener. Focus sharpening. Quiet time enhances concentration, allowing us to absorb what is truly important. In other words, silence makes communication stick. Without it, words slip through the cracks of constant noise. Silence as a signal of confidence. Think of two people giving presentations. The first rushes through slides, filling every second with words, barely breathing. The second speaks slowly, pausing after key points, letting ideas hang in the air. Which one do you perceive as more confident? Strategic silence communicates control. It suggests, I am not afraid of waiting. I trust that what I said carries weight. I do not need to compete for attention. I already have it. In negotiations, silence often works like an invisible lever. After making an offer, the most powerful move is to stop talking. The silence pressures the other side to respond, often revealing more than they intended. This is not manipulation, but an understanding of human psychology. People fill silence with truth, the emotional depth of silence. Beyond cognition and strategy, silence plays a deeply emotional role. Have you ever sat with someone in grief or pain? Sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is not speak. Words may feel empty or inadequate, but silence, paired with presence, communicates empathy at a profound level. In relationships, silence can be a way of showing respect, a safe space for the other person's emotions, a bridge to deeper intimacy. Paradoxically, silence makes people feel more heard than constant verbal reassurance. Practical ways silence enhances communication. Let's explore some concrete examples of how silence can elevate everyday interactions. Before a key statement, pausing just before delivering your main point builds anticipation. Example: there's one decision that will determine the success of this project. Pause, and it is whether we commit fully to it. After an important idea, pausing after a key phrase allows the listener to digest it. Example: trust is the foundation of every strong team. Pause, without it, nothing else works. During conflict, a moment of silence before responding prevents escalation. Example: someone criticizes you. Instead of snapping back, you breathe, remain quiet for 3 seconds, and then reply calmly. In active listening, when someone shares something personal, silence after their words shows respect and empathy, encouraging them to continue. Exercise is to practice the power of silence. Exercise 1, the 3-second rule. In your next conversation, pause for 3 seconds after making a key statement. Notice how the other person reacts. Exercise 2, silent listening. Choose one conversation today where you will consciously listen without interrupting for at least 1 full minute. Let silence do the work. Exercise 3, negotiation pause. The next time you ask for something, a deadline extension, a raise, or even a simple request, make your statement, then remain silent. Allow the other person to fill the space. Exercise 4, reflection breaks. Throughout your day, take 2 short breaks of complete silence, no phone, no music, no talking. Use them to notice your thoughts and emotions, overcoming the fear of silence. Silence can feel threatening at first, especially if you're used to filling every gap with words. Here are some mindset shifts to help you embrace it. Reframe the pause. Instead of seeing silence as weakness, see it as authority. Trust your presence. People respect those who are comfortable with stillness. Remember the listener. Pauses help them understand, not just you. Practice incrementally. Start small. Add short pauses, then gradually extend them. Silence and leadership. Great leaders are often defined not by the volume of their words, but by the weight of their pauses. Nelson Mandela was known to listen quietly before speaking, often allowing silence to stretch longer than others were comfortable with. This created an aura of wisdom and authority. When leaders speak less and listen more, they empower others to contribute, build cultures of trust, ensure their words carry greater weight when spoken. The paradox of silence. Here lies the paradox. Silence feels empty, yet it communicates fullness. It feels passive, yet it demonstrates strength. It feels small, yet magnifies impact. Those who master silence discover a rare skill. They influence not by adding more, but by creating space. Silence is not the absence of voice. It is the amplifier of meaning. Chapter 2, Clarity over Quantity. Introduction, the illusion of more words. Imagine sitting in a meeting where a colleague presents an idea. They speak for 15 minutes, covering every possible detail, layering explanation upon explanation. At the end, you find yourself confused. What was their main point? What do they want from you? Now picture another person. They take 3 minutes, speak with precision, and leave you crystal clear about the idea and what action is expected. Who made the bigger impact? We live in an age where quantity masquerades as value. We assume that more words equal more knowledge, more influence, more authority. But in reality, endless talking often weakens communication. True power lies in clarity, not in length. In this chapter, we will explore why clarity is so rare, why we instinctively over-explain, and how you can master the discipline of communicating with precision, why we default to quantity. If clarity is so effective, why do so many people fall into the trap of over-explaining? The reasons are deeply human. Insecurity. We fear that if we say too little, others will think we don't know enough. So we compensate with more words, hoping to prove competence. Ego. Talking more gives us the illusion of importance. We want to be seen as experts, so we flood conversations with jargon and detail. Lack of preparation. Many people speak without knowing their core message. Instead of organizing thoughts, they talk in circles, hoping the point will appear. Cultural conditioning. In many settings, talking a lot is equated with leadership, intelligence, or confidence. Ironically, the result is the opposite. People tune out, lose track, or feel overwhelmed. Overcommunication is not depth, it is noise. The cost of too many words. Overloading conversations comes with real costs. Confusion. When messages are buried under layers of unnecessary detail, the listener struggles to grasp what matters. Fatigue. Attention is limited. If you require people to work too hard to extract meaning, they disengage. Loss of authority. Long-windedness often signals uncertainty. People trust those who speak concisely more than those who ramble. Conflict. Vague or ambiguous words create misunderstandings, which can escalate into unnecessary disputes. Think of clarity as a gift. Every extra word is a tax on the listener's attention. The less you waste, the more generous you are. Clarity as a virtue. Clarity is not merely a communication technique. It is a sign of respect and integrity. When you are clear, you are respecting time. You acknowledge that your audience's attention is valuable. Demonstrating mastery. Simplicity reflects deep understanding. If you cannot explain something simply, you probably don't fully grasp it. Building trust. People equate clear communication with honesty. They feel you are not hiding behind complexity. The most respected professionals, leaders, and teachers are those who can take something complex and explain it simply. That is the true mark of intelligence. Enemies of clarity. To master clarity, we must first identify its enemies, the habits that erode sharp communication. Overinformation, giving too many details that cloud the main idea. Ambiguity, using vague language such as sort of, kind of, or things like that. Jargon and technical terms, overusing specialized language that excludes or confuses people. Redundancy, repeating the same point in different ways. Thinking repetition adds weight. Over-apologizing or hedging, phrases like, I might be wrong, but, or this is just my opinion, weaken authority. Removing these habits is like cleaning a lens. Suddenly, the message shines with clarity. The discipline of brevity. Clarity is impossible without brevity. But brevity is not about saying less for the sake of less. It is about saying only what matters. Consider Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Just 272 words, yet remembered for centuries. Contrast that with thousands of speeches lost to history because they drown in unnecessary words. Brevity is powerful because it forces prioritization. You must decide what is truly essential. Magnifies impact. Short, sharp messages are easier to remember. Demonstrates authority. It shows confidence that your few words are enough. Practical techniques for clear communication. 1. Identify the core message. Before speaking or writing, ask, what is the one thing I want my audience to remember? Boil it down to a single sentence. If you can't, you're not ready to speak. 2. Use simple vocabulary. Avoid complex terms unless absolutely necessary. Replace utilize with use, terminate with end, facilitate with help. The simpler the word, the faster the understanding. 3. Prefer short sentences. Long, winding sentences lose people. Break them down. Example, complex. Due to the circumstances surrounding the current economic situation, we should consider evaluating possible alternatives. Clear, we need to consider new options. 4. Structure ideas logically. Organize communication into steps or categories. People grasp lists and sequences better than scattered thoughts. Example, context, problem, solution, benefits. 5. Remove the unnecessary. Before sending an email or finishing presentation, review it and ask, what can I cut without losing meaning? Editing is as important as speaking. Stories that illustrate clarity. The CEO's email. A well-known CEO once asked his staff to send him summaries no longer than 5 sentences. If they couldn't explain an idea in that space, it meant they weren't clear themselves. The result? More decisive decisions, less wasted time. The doctor's explanation. Imagine a doctor who explains your diagnosis with technical terms. Your condition involves an inflammatory response caused by elevated cytokines, requiring immunosuppressive intervention. Confusing, right? Now imagine the same doctor saying, your immune system is overreacting. We'll give you medicine to calm it down. Same knowledge, far greater clarity. Exercises to strengthen clarity. Exercise 1, the 60-second summary. Choose a movie, book, or project. Summarize it in under 1 minute, focusing only on the essence. Exercise 2, rewrite for brevity. Take a long paragraph you've written, an email, note, or report. Rewrite it so it is 50% shorter, but equally clear. Exercise 3, the one-sentence test. Before any meeting, write down your message in one sentence. That becomes your anchor. Exercise 4, clarity journal. At the end of the day, write the clearest 3 sentences you can about what mattered most a day. Clarity in difficult conversations. When emotions run high, many people avoid clarity, fearing it will hurt feelings. They soften, hedge, or talk around the truth. But vagueness often creates more harm. Example: instead of saying, "Your performance is disappointing," you might say, "There are areas of potential improvement that could perhaps be addressed at some point." The second statement confuses and frustrates. The first, though harder to hear, is honest and direct. Clarity plus empathy equals respect. You can be kind and clear at the same time. Clarity is leadership currency. Leaders who speak with clarity cut through noise. They save their teams from confusion, wasted effort, and misaligned priorities. In fact, clarity is one of the most valuable leadership skills. Clear vision. A team can only follow what they understand. Clear expectations. Ambiguity breeds mistakes. Clear feedback. Growth requires directness. Clarity is not about talking more. It is about removing everything that clouds understanding. Common pitfalls to avoid. Mistaking length for depth. Long explanations don't equal deep insights. Depth is imprecision. Oversimplification. Beware of stripping meaning so far that nuance is lost. Balance is key. Performative clarity. Speaking clearly without listening clearly is still noise. Clarity is two-way. The respect factor. Every time you speak or write, you are borrowing someone's time and attention. Clarity shows you respect that gift. It says, "I value your focus enough not to waste it." When you are clear, people listen more attentively. They remember what you said. They act more decisively. In this way, clarity is not just a tool of communication, but a mark of character. Closing reflection. Less but stronger. Clarity is the art of saying what needs to be said. No more, no less. It is the opposite of noise. It is the difference between water flowing cleanly and water muddied by debris. To become a clear communicator is to become someone people trust, respect, and follow. Because in a world overflowing with words, those who bring clarity bring light. As you move forward, practice cutting the unnecessary, refining the essential, and delivering it with confidence. Remember, quantity distracts, clarity leads. Chapter 3, The Art of Listening. How to Communicate by Hearing. Introduction, The Great Misunderstanding. When people think of great communicators, they usually picture charismatic speakers, leaders delivering rousing speeches, teachers explaining complex ideas, or negotiators persuading with sharp words. Speaking seems to be the obvious measure of communication skill, but this is only half the story. The most influential communicators in history were not just masters of words, they were masters of listening. Listening is the hidden pillar of communication. Without it, words lose connection. Without it, relationships collapse into misunderstandings. Without it, leadership becomes empty noise. And yet, listening is the most neglected skill in modern life. We hear sound all the time, but true listening is rare. This chapter will uncover the power of listening as an active force, not a passive one, and show how mastering it can transform the way you connect, influence, and lead. Hearing versus listening. At first glance, hearing and listening may seem the same, but they are very different. Hearing is passive. It is the act of receiving sound waves. If you're in a cafe, you hear background music and chatter, but you don't necessarily pay attention. Listening is active. It is a deliberate choice to focus, interpret, and understand. Listening requires effort, presence, and empathy. You can hear without listening, but you cannot listen without intention. Most communication failures don't happen because people can't express themselves. They happen because others aren't truly listening. Why listening is so rare. If listening is so important, why are we so bad at it? Several reasons. We listen to reply, not understand. While someone speaks, most people are already preparing their response, not absorbing what's being said. Internal noise, thoughts, worries, or to-do lists in our heads distract us from the present conversation. External noise, Phones, notifications, background chatter constantly pull attention away. Ego. Many believe their own perspective is more important than the other person's, so they half listen until it's their turn to talk. Cultural pace. Modern society prizes speed and multitasking, leaving little room for the patience true listening requires. The result? People feel unseen, unheard, undervalued, even when others are physically present. The psychology of feeling heard. Why does listening matter so much to us emotionally? Because being heard is tied to human dignity. When someone listens deeply, we feel respected. We feel our experiences are valid. We feel connected and less alone. Psychological research shows that when people feel genuinely listened to, their stress decreases, trust increases, and willingness to cooperate rises dramatically. In fact, feeling heard often matters more to people than whether the listener agrees with them. Think about it. Have you ever left a conversation thinking, they didn't solve my problem, but I feel better just because they listened? That is the healing power of attention. Listening is influence. Paradoxically, those who speak less but listen more often gain greater influence. Why? Because influence depends on understanding. In negotiations, listening reveals hidden motivations that the other side may not state directly. In leadership, listening uncovers the needs, fears, and aspirations of the team, enabling more relevant guidance. In relationships, listening builds emotional trust, the foundation of influence at any level. Influence is not about pushing harder with your own words. It is about pulling deeper with your ears. Levels of listening. Not all listening is equal. We can imagine different levels of listening, ranging from shallow to profound. Pretend listening. Nodding while distracted, waiting for your turn to speak. Selective listening. Only hearing the parts that interest you. Attentive listening. Giving attention to the words but not fully grasping the emotions. Empathic listening. Going beyond words, tuning into the feelings and meanings behind them. True mastery lies in empathic listening. This is when the other person feels not only that you heard their words, but that you understood their inner world. How to practice active listening. Active listening is a skill. Like any skill, it can be trained with deliberate practice. Here are the key elements. 1. Full attention. Put away distractions, phone, laptop, wandering thoughts. Look at the person. Give them the sense that, for this moment, they are your entire focus. 2. Body language. Leaning slightly forward, nodding naturally, and maintaining relaxed eye contact signals genuine attention. Your body speaks even when your mouth is closed. 3. Paraphrasing. Briefly repeat back what you heard in your own words. Example. Speaker. I feel overwhelmed with all the deadlines. Listener. It sounds like the workload is really heavy right now. This shows you are not just hearing, but processing. 4. Open-ended questions. Ask questions and invite elaboration rather than yes/no answers. Example. What part of the project feels most challenging for you? 5. Silence. Resist the urge to jump in. Sometimes the best listening tool is to stay quiet, giving space for the other person to go deeper. The role of empathy in listening. Listening is not just about words. It's about emotions. Empathic listening means temporarily stepping into someone else's perspective. This doesn't mean you must agree with them. It means you honor their reality. You're telling them, I see what you see. I feel a glimpse of what you feel. When people feel empathy, they open up more. They reveal truths they might otherwise hide. They feel safe. That safety is the foundation of authentic communication. Nonverbal listening. Listening also involves tuning into what is not said. Nonverbal signals often reveal more truth than spoken words. Tone of voice. Does it sound tense, hesitant, excited, or sad? Facial expressions. Are they congruent with the words? A smile paired with sad eyes speaks volumes. Body posture. Are they closed off, open, restless? By noticing these cues, you listen with your eyes as much as your ears. Stories that show the power of listening. The therapist's silence. In therapy, one of the most powerful moments often comes when the therapist simply stays silent and listens. Clients often find themselves saying more than they intended, reaching insights because the silence and presence invite depth. The business negotiation. A sales executive once shared that his best deals came when he stopped talking after asking question. The client, uncomfortable with silence, filled the space by revealing their true concerns, which gave him exactly the information he needed to close the deal. The friend in crisis. Think of a time when a friend was hurting. Chances are, the thing that mattered most was not the advice you gave, but the fact that you sat, listened, and made them feel less alone. Exercises to strengthen listening skills. Exercise 1 minute silence. In your next conversation, let the other person speak for a full minute without interrupting. No advice, no comments. Just silence, attention, and presence. Exercise 2, mirror listening. After someone shares something, restate it briefly in your own words. Ask, did I get that right? Adjust until they confirm. Exercise 3, distraction audit. Notice what distracts you most in conversations. Your phone, your thoughts, external noise. Write them down. Plan one strategy for eliminating each. Exercise 4, empathy lens. Next time someone complains or vents, instead of giving a solution, respond with an empathetic reflection. That sounds really tough, or I can imagine how frustrating that must feel. Listening in different contexts. 1, relationships. Couples who practice deep listening build stronger intimacy. Many arguments escalate not because of disagreement, but because one partner feels unheard. 2, workplace. Leaders who listen more than they speak cultivate trust. Employees feel valued and are more motivated to contribute. 3, negotiations. Listening uncovers hidden needs. The more you know about the other side's true motivations, the more creative and successful the outcome. 4, conflict resolution. When tensions run high, listening calms emotions. Simply repeating back what someone said in your own words can diffuse anger. So you're upset because you felt excluded from the decision, right? Barriers you must overcome. Even when we know the value of listening, barriers remain. Here are the most common, and how to counter them. Impatience. Remind yourself, listening saves time in the long run by preventing miscommunication. Prejudice. Check assumptions. Enter conversations with curiosity, not judgment. Multitasking. You cannot truly listen while doing something else. Prioritize presence. Advice addiction. Resist jumping to solutions. Most people want to feel understood before they want advice. Listening as a daily practice. Listening is not an occasional technique. It must become a way of being. Try small steps. Give your full attention to the cashier at the store. Put down your phone when your child talks. Pause before replying to colleagues. Each act of deep listening creates ripples of trust, respect, and connection. Closing reflection. Listening is love. At its deepest level, listening is an act of love. To listen is to say, you matter. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. In a world obsessed with speaking, those who learn to listen stand out. They are the ones people confide in, trust, and follow. So, the next time you're tempted to rush into speaking, stop. Breathe. Listen. Because in that silence, in that attention, lies the true art of communication. Chapter 4, The Weight of Every Word. Introduction. Words are never neutral. A single word can spark a war, mend a relationship, inspire a movement, or crush a spirit. We often speak as if words evaporate once they leave our lips, but they don't. Words settle into memory, shaping how people see us, how they see themselves, and even how they see the world. Think of moments in your life when someone said something unforgettable. Maybe a teacher once told you, you're capable of much more than you think, and it lit a fire that still burns today. Or perhaps someone once muttered, you'll never make it, and those words still echo in your doubts. This is the truth. Words are never neutral. They are carriers of meaning, emotion, and identity. And the more aware you are of their weight, the more powerfully you can communicate. Why every word matters. Communication is like architecture. Every word is a brick. Careless words build shaky walls that collapse under pressure. Careful words create structures that last. There are 3 key reasons why each word matters. Interpretation shapes reality. People don't hear what you say. They hear what it means to them. The word you choose can tilt that meaning in very different directions. Words trigger emotions. Neuroscience shows that words activate the same emotional centers in the brain as physical experiences. Calling a situation a challenge creates hope, while calling it a disaster breeds despair. Words define identity. The language you use not only describes reality, but also shapes your self-image and how others perceive you. The power of precision. Imprecise words are like blurry photographs. The image is there, but it's hard to interpret. Precision sharpens meaning. Instead of, this might be kind of urgent, say, this must be completed by Friday. Instead of, I don't like the way this is going, say, I'm concerned that the lack of planning will delay our launch. Precision reduces misunderstanding. It ensures your message lands exactly as intended. The emotional charge of words. Every word carries an emotional charge. Some words spark energy, others deflate it. Consider two managers giving feedback to an employee who made mistakes. Manager A says, "Your work has been disappointing." Manager B says, "I know you can do better, and I believe in your potential." Both address a performance issue, but the emotional impact is radically different. This is the hidden electricity of language. Words are not just carriers of logic, but of emotion. And emotion drives memory, action, and loyalty. Words as identity shapers. The words we choose don't just shape others. They shape us. Think of the difference between saying, "I'm terrible at this," "I'm still learning this." One freezes identity, the other keeps. Growth open. What we repeatedly tell ourselves, consciously or unconsciously, becomes a lens through which we live. Leaders, parents, and teachers wield immense influence here. When they say to someone, "You are capable, you are responsible, you are valuable," they plant seeds of identity that can grow into entire futures. Common mistakes in word choice. To appreciate the weight of words, we must first identify the ways they are often misused. Overuse of fillers. Phrases like basically, kind of, actually, or to be honest dilute impact. Example, to be honest, I think this might work. Stronger, this will work. Negative framing. Telling someone what not to do is weaker than telling them what to do. Instead of, don't be late, say, please arrive on time. Excessive jargon. Words like synergize, operationalize, paradigm shift alienate listeners. Replace with clear, human language. Harsh absolutes. Phrases like you always or you never escalate defensiveness. Use specifics instead. Yesterday this happened. The science behind word impact. Studies in neuroscience and psychology reveal fascinating insights. The no effect. Brain scans show that negative words like no or can't trigger a surge of stress hormones. Even a brief exposure to negativity reduces problem-solving capacity. The yes effect positive. Affirming words increase dopamine and serotonin, enhancing creativity, trust, and openness. Framing effect. When doctors told patients there was a 90% survival rate, they felt hopeful. When told there was a 10% mortality rate, patients felt fear, though the facts were identical. This is why precision and positivity matters so much. The art of choosing the right word. How do you become someone who uses words with impact? Here are guiding principles. 1. Favor simplicity. Short, clear words beat long, complex ones. Instead of commence, say start. Instead of terminate, say end. 2. Match words to intent. Before speaking, ask, what do I want this person to feel or do? Choose words aligned with that outcome. 3. Use active language. Active verbs energize. We achieve results is stronger than results were achieved. 4. Respect the listener's world. Choose words that resonate with their context, not just yours. Avoid jargon unless you are sure they understand. Stories that reveal word power. The 3 words that saved a company. A struggling startup once gathered its employees. Morale was low. The CEO didn't give a long lecture. He just said, "We're not finished." Those 3 words carried defiance, hope, and direction. The company rallied and eventually succeeded. The teacher's sentence. A teacher once told a shy student, "You ask the best questions in class." That single comment transformed the student's confidence, leading them to a career in research. The wrong word at the wrong time. In another case, a manager said casually to a high-performing employee, "You're replaceable, you know." That employee left within weeks, costing the company dearly. Practical techniques to sharpen word use. Technique 1, the edit test. Before sending an email or giving a speech, remove every unnecessary word. Ask, does this word add clarity or emotion? If not, cut it. Technique 2, replace negatives with positives. Instead of telling someone what not to do, reframe it. Don't rush becomes take your time. Technique 3, word journaling. Each day, write down one word you use that had a big impact, positive or negative. Reflect on why it worked or didn't. Technique 4, the one-word anchor. Before meeting, choose one word you want people to associate with you: clarity, trust, energy. Let that guide your language. Words and written communication. The digital world magnifies the weight of words. Emails, texts, and posts live far longer than spoken words. They can be forwarded, screenshotted, and remembered. Rules for clarity in writing. Keep paragraphs short. Use bullet points for clarity. Avoid sarcasm. It rarely translates well in text. Read once for meaning, again for tone. Remember, your words are not just information. They are permanent footprints. The rhythm and tone of words. Impact isn't just about word choice, but also about rhythm and tone. Fast and rushed can sound insecure. Slow and deliberate signals confidence. Pauses give weight to words before and after them. Even the most carefully chosen words lose impact if delivered poorly. The music of speech matters as much as the lyrics. Exercises to master word power. Exercise 1, rewrite the harsh. Take a harsh phrase you might use, like, this is wrong. Rewrite it into a constructive alternative. This needs adjustment. Exercise 2, one-word influence. Choose a single word that defines your day, e.g., calm, focus. Try to weave it into your conversations naturally. Exercise 3, silence before word. Before saying something important, pause for 3 seconds. Then speak. Notice how it amplifies the chosen words. Words as leadership tools. Leaders shape cultures with words. A careless joke can breed cynicism. A phrase of encouragement can ignite commitment. A repeated motto can define an entire organization's identity. Great leaders are remembered not only for what they did, but for what they said. I have a dream. Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, we can. Barack Obama. Never given. Winston Churchill. These phrases endure because they carry clarity, conviction, and emotion. Closing reflection. Speak as if it matters. Every conversation is an opportunity to build or break, to heal or to hurt, to clarify or to confuse. Words are tools, but also weapons. They are bridges, but also walls. To master communication is not only to speak. It is to weigh every word as if it matters, because it does. So before you speak, pause and ask, what weight will my words carry? And then choose with care, because someone's future, confidence, or hope might rest on what you say next. Chapter 5, Speaking Without Words, the Power of Nonverbal Communication. Introduction, the silent language. Imagine walking into a room where two people are sitting across from each other. Neither speaks. One sits upright, arms open, leaning forward slightly, eyes bright. The other slouches, arms crossed, eyes cast down, lips tight. Without hearing a single word, you already know. One is confident and engaged, the other is defensive or withdrawn. This is the essence of nonverbal communication, the silent language that speaks louder than words. Research suggests that over 60% of our communication impact is nonverbal. Tone, gestures, posture, facial expressions, they don't just decorate our words, they define them. And here lies the paradox. While most people focus endlessly on what to say, the real message often comes from how they say it. Why nonverbal matters more than words. Words are easy to manipulate. We can lie with language, but our bodies often betray our true emotions. That's why nonverbal signals are considered more honest. Think about these moments. Someone says, I'm fine, but their shoulders sag and their tone trembles. Do you believe the words or the body? A leader says, I'm confident in this strategy, but avoids eye contact and fiddles nervously with a pen. The words vanish. The body speaks louder. When words and body conflict, the body always wins in the listener's mind. The components of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a wide spectrum. Let's break it into key elements. Posture, the way you sit or stand reflects confidence, openness, or defensiveness. Gestures, movements of the hands can emphasize, illustrate, or distract. Facial expressions, smiles, frowns, raised brows, micro-expressions reveal emotions instantly. Eye contact, the window into attention, trust, and honesty. Tone of voice, pace, pitch, and volume carry emotional signals beyond words. Proxemics, use of space. Distance communicates intimacy, respect, or dominance. Touch, a handshake, a pat on the back, or lack thereof alters emotional perception. Appearance, clothing, grooming, and even color choices silently influence impressions. Each of these is a tool or a trap, depending on how consciously you use them. Posture, the architecture of presence. Your posture is like your personal billboard. Open posture, standing tall, shoulders relaxed, arms uncrossed. This communicates confidence, receptivity, and authority. Closed posture, arms crossed, body turned away, hunched shoulders. This signals defensiveness or disengagement. Practical example. In an interview, candidates with upright, open posture are perceived as more competent, even before speaking a word. Gestures, the amplifiers. Gestures are visual punctuation marks. Used well, they add rhythm and emphasis. Used poorly, they distract. Effective gestures, open palms, honesty. Measured hand movements, clarity. Distracting gestures, excessive fidgeting, pointing aggressively or waving hands without purpose. Story, a politician once practiced giving a speech. His words were powerful, but his constant finger pointing made audiences feel accused. When he switched open palm gestures, his approval ratings improved. Facial expressions, the truth tellers. Faces are emotional billboards. Even micro-expressions, fleeting, involuntary facial movements, reveal truth. Genuine smile involves not only lips but also eyes, Duchenne smile. Signals warmth and authenticity. Tight smile, lips only, no eyes. Often reveals politeness masking discomfort. Raised eyebrows, surprise, skepticism, or questioning. Furrowed brow, concentration, worry, or frustration. In negotiations, skilled observers read these cues to detect agreement resistance or hesitation long before words confirm it. Eye contact, the bridge of trust. Eye contact is one of the most powerful nonverbal tools. Balanced eye contact signals confidence, sincerity, and attention. Avoiding eye contact suggests nervousness, insecurity, or dishonesty. Excessive staring feels aggressive or intimidating. Cultural note. In some cultures, direct eye contact is respectful. In others, it may be seen as challenging. The skilled communicator adjusts accordingly. Tone of voice, the music behind the words. Tone conveys emotional truth. Think of the word really. Spoken flatly, it means curiosity. Spoken sharply, it means doubt or sarcasm. Spoken with excitement, it means admiration. Elements of tone. Pitch. High pitch can signal nervousness. Low pitch conveys authority. Pace. Speaking too fast suggests anxiety. Deliberate pacing creates clarity. Volume. Too loud is aggressive. Too soft undermines authority. Tip. Record yourself speaking. Listen not for the words, but for the music of your voice. Space and proximity. The invisible boundary. How close you stand to someone says, as much as words. Psychologist Edward Hall defined 4 zones. Intimate, 0 to 45 centimeters. Family, close partners. Personal, 45 cm, 1.2 m. Friends, trusted colleagues. Social, 1.2 to 3.5 m. Acquaintances, casual interactions. Public, 3.5 m plus. Presentations, speeches. Violating these zones can create discomfort. For example, standing too close in a business meeting may feel intrusive. Standing too far during a personal conversation may feel cold. Touch, the forgotten language. Touch is powerful yet culturally sensitive. A handshake signals formality and agreement. A pat on the back conveys encouragement. A hug can communicate warmth and support. But misuse of touch can cause discomfort or even distrust. The rule, always respect context and consent. Appearance, the silent first impression. Before you speak, your appearance speaks for you. Clothing, grooming, and even colors influence perception. Dark colors often communicate authority. Light colors communicate approachability. Neatness communicates discipline. Disorder communicates carelessness. You cannot control how people judge appearance, but you can control the message you send through it. The congruence principle, aligning words and body. The most powerful communication happens when words and body align. Incongruence creates mistrust. For example, saying, "I'm excited to be here," while looking down and mumbling creates doubt. Saying, "I'm concerned," while leaning forward, eyebrows furrowed, and voice steady creates credibility. Trust emerges when the verbal and nonverbal say the same thing. Stories that reveal the power of nonverbal. The CEO who lost a room. A CEO once presented a new strategy to employees. His words were optimistic, but his slouched posture and downward gaze betrayed doubt. The team left discouraged. Months later, after coaching in posture and delivery, he repeated the same strategy. This time, standing tall and speaking with aligned gestures, the same words inspired confidence. The job interview. A nervous graduate went into an interview. She answered questions well, but her constant fidgeting with her hair made her appear uncertain. After training to keep hands calmly on the table, her confidence shone through, and she landed the job. The silent friend. During a funeral, a friend sat quietly next to someone grieving, placing a hand gently on their shoulder. No words were spoken, yet that silent act communicated more comfort than any speech could. Practical techniques to improve nonverbal skills. Technique 1, the mirror test. Practice delivering a message in front of a mirror. Observe whether your face matches your words. Technique 2, video playback. Record yourself speaking. Notice posture, gestures, tone. Adjust and refine. Technique 3, power pose practice. Before important events, stand tall with open arms for 2 minutes. Research shows this increases confidence hormones. Technique 4, gesture alignment. Practice using gestures intentionally. Open palms when inviting, steady hand when emphasizing, pause gestures when concluding. Nonverbal communication in different contexts. 1. Public speaking. Nonverbal delivery can make or break a speech. Strategic pauses, eye contact, and open posture captivate audiences. 2. Leadership. Leaders set tone with body language. A calm stance in crisis communicates stability. Frantic movement spreads panic. 3. Negotiations. Reading micro-expressions and posture can reveal when the other side is bluffing or uncertain. 4. Relationships. Small acts, a smile, touch, or warm gaze, deepen intimacy more than words ever could. Exercises for daily mastery. Exercise 1, nonverbal awareness walk. As you move through your day, observe others' body language. Ask yourself, what are they communicating without words? Exercise 2, silent conversation. Spend 2 minutes with a partner communicating only through expressions and gestures. Notice how much meaning transfers without speech. Exercise 3, eye contact challenge. In your next conversation, maintain natural eye contact 60 to 70% of the time. Observe how trust increases. The dark side, misuse of nonverbal cues. Nonverbal signals can also be misused. Manipulative communicators may fake smiles, use intimidating posture, or invade space to assert control. Awareness is protection. When you recognize false signals, you can resist being misled. Closing reflection. Your body speaks before you do. Every time you enter a room, your body announces you. It says whether you are confident, nervous, open, or closed, long before words begin. To master communication, you must not only sharpen your words, but also align your silent language. When words and body move together, your message becomes unstoppable. So remember, even in silence, you are speaking. The question is, what are you saying? Chapter 6, The Power of Questions, Influencing Through Curiosity. Introduction, the question that changed everything. Think back to a moment when someone asked you a question that shifted your perspective. Maybe it was, what do you really want? Why do you believe that? What's stopping you? Questions are catalysts. They don't just gather information. They provoke reflection, awaken awareness, and invite transformation. While answers often close conversations, Questions open them. Throughout history, great thinkers, leaders, and teachers have recognized this. Socrates didn't lecture endlessly. He asked. Great negotiators don't push demands. They probe. Parents who raise independent children don't dictate every step. They ask guiding questions. And here's the central truth of this chapter. The most influential people are not those who speak the most, but those who ask the right questions at the right time. Why questions are more powerful than statements. A statement tells. A question invites. The difference is profound. Questions create ownership. When someone answers a question, they generate their own reasoning. People rarely resist conclusions they arrive at themselves. Questions unlock reflection. Unlike statements, questions force the brain into deeper thinking. Even if unanswered aloud, the mind begins searching internally. Questions disarm defensiveness. A direct statement can trigger resistance. You're wrong. But a question like, what makes you see it that way, opens dialogue without confrontation. Questions build connection. Asking shows interest, respect, and curiosity. People feel valued when someone genuinely seeks their perspective. The anatomy of a powerful question. Not all questions are equal. Some skim the surface. Others go deep. A powerful question has 3 characteristics. It is open, not closed. Closed. Do you like your job? Yes/no. Open. What do you enjoy most about your job? Invites depth. It provokes reflection. Ordinary. How was your day? Powerful. What was the most meaningful part of your day? It connects to emotion. Surface. Did you hit your target? Deeper. How did you feel when you hit your target? Types of questions and their strategic uses. Clarifying questions. Used to ensure mutual understanding. Can you give me an example? What do you mean by that? Exploratory questions. Open doors to new perspectives. What alternatives have you considered? What would this look like if money wasn't a constraint? Reflective questions. Encourage self-awareness. Why is this important to you? What lesson did you take from that experience? Challenging questions. Push people beyond comfort zones. What would you do if you weren't afraid? What belief might be limiting you here? Visionary questions. Inspire new possibilities. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What impact do you want to leave behind? The science of curiosity. Neuroscience confirms that curiosity is a motivator more powerful than reward. When asked a stimulating question, the brain releases dopamine, the learning chemical. This explains why good questions capture attention longer than long explanations. For example, a lecturer who begins with, "Why do some people remember faces but forget names?" immediately hooks the audience. The brain must find an answer. Mistakes people make when asking questions. Interrogation mode. Asking too many questions in rapid fire makes people feel attacked rather than engaged. Leading questions. These manipulate rather than explore. Don't you agree this is the best option? It signals agenda, not curiosity. Overly generic questions. How's it going? Rarely yields depth. Vague questions create vague answers. Asking without listening. A powerful question loses all power if you don't listen fully to the response. Stories that reveal the power of questions. The mentor's question. A young professional once asked his mentor, "What should I do with my career?" Instead of prescribing an answer, the mentor asked, "What kind of problems do you feel most alive solving?" That single question reshaped the young man's path. He built a career not around job titles, but around solving meaningful problems. The negotiator's question. During tense peace talks, one side declared, "We cannot agree to your terms." Instead of retaliating, the lead negotiator asked, "What conditions will allow you to say yes?" That question reframed the discussion, leading to common ground. The parent's question. Instead of telling her child, "You need to study harder," a mother asked, "What kind of future do you imagine for yourself?" The child began making his own connection between effort and outcome, far more motivating than commands. Techniques to ask better questions. 1. Start with what and how more than why. Why can feel accusatory. Compare. Why did you do that? Defensive. What led you to that decision? Open exploration. 2. Use silence after asking. Ask, then pause. Don't rush to fill the gap. Silence invites deeper responses. 3. Layer your questions. Follow up by digging deeper. First, what did you think of the project? Then, what part was most rewarding? Then, how could that be expanded in future work? 4. Ask fewer, better questions. Quality matters more than quantity. One well-crafted question can transform an entire meeting. Questions in different contexts. In leadership, leaders who ask questions empower teams. Instead of saying, here's a solution, ask, what do you think is the best way forward? This builds ownership and innovation. In negotiation, strategic questions uncover hidden needs. What is most important to you in this deal often reveals priorities that money alone cannot solve. In coaching and mentoring, coaches thrive on questions that unlock potential. What strengths can you use to overcome this challenge? Shifts focus from obstacles to resources. In personal relationships, questions show care. Instead of saying, that's silly, ask, what makes you feel that way? It validates emotions and deepens intimacy. The power of self-questioning. Questions aren't just for others. They are tools for self-reflection. Daily self-questions can sharpen awareness. What am I grateful for today? What did I learn from this experience? What is the most important thing I should focus on now? Leaders, writers, and innovators often credit their success to journaling powerful questions rather than giving themselves answers. Exercises to build the habit of powerful questions. Exercise 1. Rewrite commands as questions. Take common directives you give, e.g., finish this by tomorrow, and reframe them as questions. What would help you finish this by tomorrow? Notice how tone and response change. Exercise 2. The 5 whys drill. Pick a problem. Ask why 5 times in succession to uncover root causes. E.g., why are sales low? Because leads are down. Why are leads down? Because marketing slowed. Why did marketing slow? Budget cuts. Why cuts? Misallocation of funds. Exercise 3. Conversation upgrade. Replace generic questions like, how are you? With richer ones. What's been the highlight of your week? What's the biggest challenge you're working through? Exercise 4. Self-reflection journal. Each night, answer 3 questions. What went well today? What challenged me? What can I improve tomorrow? The ripple effect of great questions. A single question can echo for years. Teachers plant them in students' minds. Leaders plant them in teams. Parents plant them in children. These questions grow into decisions, careers, and values. Martin Luther King Jr. asked, what kind of world should my children grow up in? That question shaped his movement. Entrepreneurs often ask, what problem in the world bothers me enough to fix it? Many businesses are born from this seed. When you ask great questions, you are not just influencing the present moment. You are planting seeds for the future. Closing reflection. Influence through curiosity. We live in a culture obsessed with answers. Quick solutions, instant advice, endless talking. But true influence often comes not from telling, but from asking. Questions transform conversation from transactions into discoveries. They empower others to think, to own their choices, and to grow. They reveal respect, build trust, and inspire change. So the next time you want to influence someone, resist the urge to lecture. Instead, pause. Ask. Listen. Then ask again. Because the right question, asked at the right moment, can change everything. Chapter 7. Strategic silence. Turning pauses into power. Introduction. The pause that commands attention. Picture this. A speaker steps on stage. The audience waits. She opens her mouth, then stops. For 3 long seconds, she remains silent, scanning the room with calm eyes. In that pause, the room leans forward. Every phone goes down. Every eye lifts. Silence has spoken, louder than words. We fear silence in conversation. We scramble to fill it, afraid of awkwardness. Yet those who master silence discover it is not emptiness, but a multiplier of meaning. In this chapter, we'll explore how silence, when used with intention, becomes one of the most powerful tools of communication. Why silence feels so uncomfortable. From childhood, most of us are conditioned to fill every gap with chatter. Teachers call on us quickly. Social norms reward quick responses. Job interviews demand instant answers. Pauses feel like weakness, like we don't know enough. But this discomfort is cultural, not natural. In some societies, such as in Japan or Finland, silence is seen as a sign of respect, wisdom, or thoughtfulness. In others, such as in the U.S. or Latin America, silence may be misinterpreted as hesitation. What unites all cultures, however, is this. When silence is used intentionally, it communicates strength, confidence, and control. The psychology of silence. Silence creates 3 psychological effects that make it so powerful. Anticipation. Pauses create suspense. The brain expects closure, so silence makes listeners lean in. Processing. A gap gives the brain time to absorb information, making ideas stick. Pressure. In negotiations or conversations, silence often compels the other person to speak, revealing more than they intended. Think of silence as a punctuation in your communication. Without pauses, words are noise. With them, words gain rhythm and resonance. Types of strategic silence. Reflective silence. A pause after a question or statement, giving space for thought. Example, after asking, "What's most important to you in this project?" Remain silent. The other person will fill the space with deeper truth. Emphatic silence. A pause after a key phrase, letting the words echo. Example, "This decision will define our future." Pause. For decades. Negotiation silence. Silence after making an offer or proposal. The other side often reveals hidden concerns or concessions. Composure silence. Taking a pause before responding emotionally to regulate tone and avoid escalation. Leadership silence. A leader allowing others to speak first, creating ownership and trust. Silence in different contexts. Public speaking. Great speakers use silence like musicians use rests. A pause before the climax builds anticipation. A pause after a powerful line etches it in memory. Winston Churchill, Martin Luther King Jr., and Barack Obama all use strategic pauses to amplify their impact. Negotiation. Salespeople know the golden rule. After stating the price, say nothing. The buyer often fills the silence, sometimes by persuading themselves to accept. Silence in negotiation is like oxygen, invisible but essential. Difficult conversations. When emotions run high, silence is a shield. Instead of reacting impulsively, a pause lets you breathe, think, and respond with clarity. In conflict, the first one to regain calm through silence often steers the outcome. Leadership. Leaders who dominate every conversation breed dependence. Leaders who pause, listen, and remain silent after asking questions cultivate autonomy. Teams rise to the level of responsibility they are given. Silence is the invitation. Stories that reveal the power of strategic silence. The sales call. A young salesperson nervously pitched a product. At the end, she blurted out the price and immediately added, "But we can give you discounts, of course." The client smiled, knowing she had surrendered leverage. After training, she tried again. This time, she stated price, then stayed silent. After a few seconds, the client said, "That's reasonable." Sale closed. The therapist paused. A therapist asked the client, "How did that make you feel?" Silence filled the room. The client shifted uncomfortably, then broke down in tears. The pause had allowed emotions to surface that words had long concealed. The CEO's meeting. During a heated debate, a CEO remained silent. The team argued back and forth. Finally, someone asked, "What do you think?" The CEO smiled and said, "I was waiting to hear your solutions." The room quieted and new respect was born. Why silence communicates authority. Psychologists explain that people with higher social status often feel less need to speak. They are not pressured to prove themselves. Their silence is interpreted as confidence. By contrast, those anxious about status tend to fill every gap with words. Thus, silence, when combined with calm body language, projects authority. It suggests, "I am comfortable enough to let the space breathe." The risks of silence. Strategic silence is powerful, but misuse can backfire. Excessive silence, too long, and it becomes awkward or intimidating. Passive silence. Remaining quiet to avoid conflict can signal weakness, not strength. Manipulative silence, using silence as punishment damages trust. The key is balance. Silence must serve clarity, not confusion. Techniques to master strategic silence. 1. The 2-second rule. After making an important statement, pause for 2 full seconds. Resist the urge to rush. 2. Silent counting. In heated moments, count silently to 5 before replying. This creates composure and prevents regretful words. 3. Eye contact plus silence. Pair silence with steady, calm eye contact. This signals confidence rather than hesitation. 4. Write key pauses in notes. For speeches or presentations, literally mark where you will pause. Treat silence as part of the script. 5. Practice in low-stakes settings. During casual conversations, let silences linger a bit longer than usual. Build comfort gradually. Exercises for daily life. Exercise 1. The silent listener. In your next conversation, resist the urge to interrupt. Let the other person finish fully, even if silence follows. Notice how much more they reveal. Exercise 2. Pause before responding. All day, before answering any question, pause for 1 or 2 seconds. Observe how people lean in, expecting depth. Exercise 3. Reflective journaling. At the end of the day, ask yourself, where did I use silence effectively? Where did I rush? Build awareness. Silence as emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence, notes that self-regulation is a key leadership skill. Silence is one of the simplest tools of regulation. A pause lets emotions settle before they spill into destructive words. Example, a manager receives harsh criticism in a meeting. Instead of snapping back, he pauses, breathes, and says calmly, "I'd like to reflect on that before responding." The silence saves his reputation and creates space for thoughtful dialogue. The cultural dimension of silence. Silence doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. In high-context cultures, Japan, China, Finland, silence is a respected part of conversation, signaling wisdom. In low-context cultures, U.S., Germany, Italy, silence is often seen as awkward. A skilled communicator adapts. If silence feels uncomfortable for the audience, shorten it, but don't eliminate it. If silence is respected, lengthen it for greater effect. Strategic silence in digital communication. Even online, silence is power. Waiting before replying to an email or message can signal thoughtfulness, prevent emotional reactions, increase the weight of your eventual response. The digital version of impulsive speech is the hasty email. Strategic digital silence builds credibility. Advanced applications of silence. In coaching and therapy, silence invites clients to dive deeper. A well-timed pause can reveal what scripted questions cannot. In mediation, silence cools emotions, giving both parties space to recalibrate. Mediators often say, "Let's pause for a moment," and in that space, solutions emerge. In teaching, teachers who ask a question and then wait, instead of calling on the fastest hand, train students to think critically rather than compete for speed. Real-world example, Steve Jobs pauses. When Steve Jobs unveiled the first iPhone in 2007, he paused before saying, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." That silence created anticipation so electric that the audience erupted before he even finished the sentence. Jobs knew that pauses create drama. His silence wasn't hesitation, it was theater. Closing reflection, learning to love the pause. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is communication at its purest. It is a canvas that gives words their shape, the breath that gives meaning to speech, the calm that transforms noise into resonance. To master silence is to master presence. To pause is not to lose control, it is to take control. So the next time you're about to rush, resist, hold the space. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Because in communication, as in music, sometimes the most powerful note is the one not played. Chapter 8. Authenticity in Communication. Aligning words with values. Introduction. The magnetic power of being real. Imagine meeting two leaders. The first dazzles with polished rhetoric, flawless posture, and memorized lines. The second speaks with less polish, but with unmistakable sincerity. Who do you trust more? Most people instinctively gravitate toward the second. Why? Because authenticity is magnetic. We are wired to detect whether words align with truth. Authentic communicators may not always be the most eloquent, but they are remembered, trusted, and followed because they speak from a place of inner alignment. This chapter is about mastering that alignment. Ensure your words reflect who you are, what you believe, and what you value. Why authenticity matters more than technique. We live in a culture that prizes performance. Perfect resumes, rehearsed pitches, curated social media profiles. But over-polish can backfire. Audiences sense when someone is trying too hard. Authenticity cuts through that noise. Authenticity builds trust. People trust those whose words and actions match. In business, in relationships, in leadership, credibility is rooted not in technique, but in consistency. Authenticity creates connection. We connect emotionally when we sense that someone is speaking their truth. Even imperfection becomes endearing when it is real. Authenticity inspires action. We follow leaders who embody what they preach. Integrity, the integration of word and values, is the ultimate source of influence. The cost of inauthentic communication. When words and values diverge, the consequences are subtle but severe. Erosion of credibility. People may not pinpoint a lie, but they feel something is off. Exhaustion. Pretending requires constant energy. Authenticity, by contrast, is effortless. Superficial connections. Conversation stays shallow when you hide your true self. An executive once confessed, "I used to put on a leader mask at work. It worked for a while, but I felt empty and my team didn't trust me. When I dropped the mask and spoke from who I really was, everything shifted." What authentic communication really means. Authenticity is often misunderstood. It is not oversharing every thought or emotion, speaking without filter in the name of honesty, refusing to adapt to context. Authenticity is speaking with integrity, saying only what you truly believe, aligning tone and body language with inner truth, being transparent about intentions, even when vulnerable, showing consistency across settings, at work, at home, and in private. In short, authenticity is coherence between inner values and outer expression, discovering your core values. Before you can align word with values, you must know what those values are. Here are guiding questions for self-discovery. What moments in life made me feel proudest? What actions or behaviors from others inspire me? What principles would I never compromise, even under pressure? What do I want people to remember about me when I'm gone? Common values include honesty, empathy, respect, justice, curiosity, courage, humility, service. Each person has a unique blend. Take time to reflect and even write them down. A short list of 3 to 5 core values becomes the compass for authentic communication. Aligning word with values. Once values are clear, the next step is alignment. If your value is honesty, avoid exaggeration or manipulation, even for persuasion. If your value is respect, ensure your tone communicates dignity, even in disagreement. If your value is empathy, phrase responses to validate feelings, not dismiss them. If your value is growth, speak in ways that encourage curiosity and openness. Alignment means asking yourself before speaking, do my words reflect who I truly am? The emotional resonance of authentic speech. Authentic words carry weight not because of volume, but because of congruence. Audiences feel when a speaker is aligned. Consider a politician reciting a generic speech versus sharing a personal story of struggle. A teacher lecturing from a textbook versus admitting, "I once struggled with this too." A partner saying, "I care about you," in passing versus pausing, making eye contact, and saying it with sincerity. Authenticity infuses communication with emotional resonance, the kind that lingers long after words fade. Stories that illustrate authenticity. The candidate's honesty. In a job interview, a candidate was asked about a technical skill. Instead of pretending, she admitted, "I don't know the tool well yet, but I'm eager to learn, and here's how I've mastered others quickly." She got the job. Why? Because honesty outweighed the temporary gap. The leader's admission. A CEO facing a crisis could have fake certainty. Instead, he said, "I don't have all the answers yet, but I promise transparency and I need your ideas." His team rallied behind him, not because he was flawless, but because he was real. The friend confession. A friend once told another, "I've been avoiding your calls because I've been depressed. I didn't know how to say it." That vulnerable admission deepened the friendship more than any cheerful small talk ever could. Barriers to authenticity. Fear of judgment. We hide true feelings to avoid rejection. Perfectionism. We polish until nothing genuine remains. Cultural conditioning. Some societies reward formality over honesty. Corporate masks. Professional environments often encourage jargon and posturing. Recognizing these barriers is a first step toward dismantling them. Techniques to cultivate authentic communication. 1. Slow down. Rushing creates inauthenticity because you speak reflexively, not reflectively. Pause, breathe, then speak. 2. Replace jargon with humanity. Instead of saying, "We need to optimize operational synergies," say, "Let's find a simpler way to work together." 3. Share stories, not just data. Personal anecdotes reveal authenticity more than statistics ever can. 4. Admit limitations. Phrases like, "I don't know yet," or "I was wrong," don't weaken you, they strengthen trust. 5. Align nonverbal with verbal. If you say, "I'm excited," but your tone is flat, people believe your tone, not your words. Authenticity in leadership. Leaders often believe they must project constant certainty. But authenticity inspires more than bravado. Employees respect leaders who admit mistakes, share real struggles, credit others openly, communicate with humility. Authentic leadership humanizes authority. It says, "I'm not above you, I'm with you." Authenticity in relationships. In personal life, authenticity is the glue of intimacy. Pretending erodes trust. True connection thrives on honest expression of needs, admitting vulnerabilities, speaking from the heart, not scripts. Even conflict becomes healthier when authenticity guides it. Instead of saying, "You never listen, try, I feel unheard and it hurts me." That truth, though vulnerable, invites healing. Authenticity in professional communication. Even in formal contexts, authenticity can set you apart. Emails. Write as if you're speaking to a real person, not a machine. Presentations. Share why the topic matters to you personally. Networking. Ask genuine questions instead of rehearsed elevator pitches. Authenticity cuts through the robotic tone of business language and makes your voice memorable. Exercise is to build authentic expression. Exercise 1, value alignment check. Before any major communication, ask, which of my core values does this message express? If none, adjust until aligned. Exercise 2, story practice. Pick a professional context and replace abstract explanations with one personal story. Notice how engagement increases. Exercise 3, vulnerability experiment. Once a week, admit something small you don't know or share a personal challenge with someone you trust. Build muscle for authentic disclosure. Exercise for a mirror test. After speaking, ask, "Would I feel proud if someone replayed that?" If not, adjust toward greater authenticity. The courage to be authentic. Authenticity requires courage. It means risking rejection, criticism, or misunderstanding. But the alternative, a life of masks and shallow words, costs far more. Breen Brown, who studied vulnerability extensively, writes, "Authenticity is a daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are." Common myths about authentic communication. If I'm authentic, everyone will like me. False. Authenticity means some won't, but those who do will connect more deeply. Authenticity means oversharing. False. It means selective honesty, sharing what is true and useful, not everything. Authenticity is fixed. False. It evolves as your values and self-understanding evolve. Advanced authenticity. Speaking hard truths. Sometimes authenticity requires delivering difficult truths. The key is pairing honesty with empathy. Instead of, "Your work is terrible," say, "I see potential here, but I think you can make it stronger by improving X." Instead of, "I don't love you anymore," say, "I care for you deeply, but my feelings have changed and I need to be honest." Hard truths delivered authentically, with compassion, hurt less than pleasant lies. Closing reflection. The freedom of alignment. When you communicate authentically, something profound happens. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You stop wasting energy on masks. Instead, you speak from a place of grounded truth. Authenticity may not make you perfect, but it will make you powerful, because your words will carry the weight of your soul. As the saying goes, when you speak from the heart listens. So let this be your guiding principle. Communicate not to impress, but to express who you truly are. The world does not need more polished actors. It needs more authentic voices. Chapter 9, Silent Leadership. Leading by saying less. Introduction. The leader who didn't speak first. In a boardroom filled with tension, executives argued heatedly about the future of a project. At the head of the table sat the CEO. She listened quietly, her expression calm, hands folded. For 20 minutes, she said nothing. Finally, when the storm of voices had subsided, she asked one simple question. What decision serves our mission best? The room fell silent. The debate, once chaotic, shifted toward focus. That question, delivered after a long pause, changed the direction of the meeting. This is silent leadership in action. It is not absence. It is presence without noise. It is influence without domination. It is speaking less, but with more impact. Rethinking leadership, beyond command and control. Traditional images of leadership often depict authority figures speaking loudly, issuing orders, and dominating conversations. The stereotype is, the leader is the one who talks the most. But modern leadership research shows the opposite. The most respected leaders are often the quietest in the room. They listen first, speak last, and let their silence carry weight. Why? Because leadership is not about filling space. It's about shaping space, and silence shapes more effectively than noise. The psychology of silent leadership. Silent leadership works because it taps into powerful psychological dynamics. Scarcity of words. When leaders speak rarely, their words carry more weight. Like rare currency, each sentence is valued. Authority through composure. Silence signals self-control. Leaders who don't rush to speak demonstrate confidence and patience. Empowerment of others by not dominating. Leaders create room for others to think, contribute, and take ownership. Trust building. When leaders listen silently, people feel respected and understood, which strengthens loyalty. Silence in leadership is not passive. It is an active decision to prioritize listening, reflection, and timing. The 4 pillars of silent leadership. Listening more than speaking. Great leaders treat silence as an invitation to hear others. They listen without interrupting, allowing ideas and concerns to emerge fully. Strategic pauses. Silent leaders use pauses to let words resonate, to give space for thought, and to emphasize key moments. Minimal but impactful speech. When they do speak, their words are clear, simple, and direct. Every sentence feels deliberate. Calm presence. Silent leadership projects stability. In times of crisis, silence reassures more than frantic speech ever could. Real-world examples of silent leadership. Nelson Mandela. Mandela was known for listening intently in meetings, often speaking last. His silence wasn't attachment, it was strategy. By allowing others to express themselves, he gained insights, built trust, and then used his word with precision. Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi often practiced days of silence for reflection. His restraint in words made his rare public statements carry extraordinary power. His leadership was rooted not in noise, but in presence. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Nadella is admired for his calm, listening-first leadership style. He transformed Microsoft's culture not through commanding speeches, but by creating space for employees to voice ideas, making silence a foundation of innovation. Silence in different leadership contexts. In meetings, a silent leader resists the urge to dominate. They ask a guiding question, then remain quiet as the team explores solutions. Their eventual contribution is seen as decisive. In negotiations, a leader who stays silent after stating terms often shifts psychological pressure onto the other side, leading to concessions. In crisis, silence gives time to process, prevents rash statements, and communicates steadiness. A leader who pauses before speaking projects control, even in chaos. In one-on-ones, silence allows employees to share more openly. Leaders who listen deeply, without filling every pause, build trust and uncover hidden truths. Why silent leadership builds stronger teams. Silent leaders don't just appear wise, they make others wiser. Here's why. Encourages ownership. When leaders don't rush to solve every problem, teams step up. Develops future leaders. Silence creates space for others to practice decision-making. Enhances creativity. Teams brainstorm more freely when not overshadowed by constant leader commentary. Strengthens collaboration. Silence reduces fear, as people feel their voices matter. Silent leadership multiplies effectiveness by distributing authority rather than hoarding it. Barriers to silent leadership. Despite its power, many leaders resist silence. Why? Ego, believing leadership means always having the answer. Fear of losing control. Silence feels like surrender to others' influence. Cultural expectations. Some cultures expect leaders to be vocal at all times. Insecurity. Leaders may talk excessively to mask self-doubt. Recognizing these barriers helps leaders practice silence with intention. Techniques for practicing silent leadership. 1. Ask, then wait. Pose a question to your team, then remain silent. Resist the urge to jump in. The pause draws out deeper responses. 2. Count to 5. After someone finishes speaking, silently count to 5 before responding. Often, they'll reveal more during the silence. 3. Deliberate pauses in speeches. In presentations, insert intentional pauses before and after key ideas. This makes your words memorable. 4. Speak only when necessary. Before speaking, ask, does this add value, or am I speaking just to speak? If not valuable, stay silent. 5. Active listening signals. Silent leadership doesn't mean stone-faced. Nod, maintain eye contact, and use body language to show engagement while listening. Exercises for silent leadership. Exercise 1, the silent meeting. In your next meeting, speak only after at least 3 others have contributed. Notice how it changes group dynamics. Exercise 2, the 70-30 rule. Aim to listen 70% of the time and speak 30%. Track yourself. Over time, adjust toward more listening. Exercise 3, reflective pause. When faced with a tough decision, schedule 5 minutes of silent reflection before announcing your stance. Exercise 4, feedback through silence. When giving feedback, pause after each point. Allow the other person to absorb before continuing. Silent leadership in digital communication. Silence applies even in emails or chats. Leaders who avoid flooding inboxes with unnecessary words show respect for others' time. Short, clear messages carry more authority than long, rambling ones. Examples. Instead of writing paragraphs, send concise, purposeful notes. Use digital pauses. Delay sending responses to emotionally charged messages. When leading online meetings, resist filling every gap. Let silence create reflection, even on screen. Risks of misusing silence in leadership. Silent leadership must be distinguished from neglect. Risks include excessive silence. Too little guidance may cause confusion. Indifferent silence, appearing detached rather than intentional. Punitive silence, using silence as punishment damages morale. The remedy is clarity. Make silence purposeful, not passive. Signal that you are listening, not ignoring. Silent leadership and emotional intelligence. Leaders with high emotional intelligence use silence to regulate themselves and others. Instead of reacting impulsively, they pause, listen, and respond thoughtfully. Their silence lowers tension and sets an emotional tone of calm. For example, when faced with criticism, a silent leader pauses, then responds with curiosity. Tell me more. When a conflict escalates, they stay quiet until emotions settle, then guide resolution. This composure makes them trusted anchors in turbulent times. Advanced applications of silent leadership. Mentorship. Mentors who listen more than they advise allow men to discover their own wisdom. Silence empowers growth. Cross-cultural teams. In multicultural groups, silence demonstrates respect for diverse voices. A leader's restraint allows everyone to contribute without domination. Innovation. Brainstorming sessions thrive when leaders stay quiet. Their silence signals that all ideas are welcome, not just those from the top. Case study, the silent general. During World War II, General Dwight Eisenhower was known for his calm, listening-first style. He often lets subordinates debate strategies fully before speaking. When he finally offered a perspective, it felt decisive because he had absorbed everything first. His silence built trust and ensured decisions were well informed. Closing reflection, leading without noise. Silent leadership is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the discipline of influence without domination, of creating space for others to rise, and of knowing that sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. Noise is cheap. Silence is rare. Leaders who master it stand apart. To lead silently is to lead with trust, humility, and presence. It is to believe that leadership is not about proving you have the loudest voice. It's about ensuring every voice is heard. So the next time you enter a room as a leader, resist the urge to speak first. Listen, pause, observe. Then, when the moment is right, speak with clarity and conviction. Because leadership is not measured by how much you say, but by how deeply your silence makes others think, act, and grow. Chapter 10, Emotional Control Through Silence, The Power of the Pause. Introduction, the moment before you speak. Picture this. You're in a heated conversation. Your pulse quickens. Someone has just said something unfair, maybe even hurtful. The urge to snap back burns in your chest. Now imagine instead that you take a breath. You pause. You don't answer immediately. In that silence, the emotional storm begins to settle. When you finally speak, your words are measured, clear, and powerful. That pause, that moment of silence, is one of the most effective emotional tools you will ever have. This chapter is about learning to master it. Why emotions hijack communication. Emotions are fast, much faster than reason. Neurologists often describe how, under stress, the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, hijacks our response. This is why we blurt things we regret, send emails we wish we hadn't, or escalate conflicts we could have prevented. The silence of a pause interrupts that hijacking. It creates a micro space where reason can catch up to emotion. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of regret, you choose intention. What is emotional pause? The emotional pause is a deliberate moment of silence before responding in emotionally charged situations. It is not passive. It is an active choice to let emotions settle. Process what was said. Decide on the wisest response. A pause can be as short as a breath or as long as several seconds. What matters is that it shifts control from impulse to intention. The benefits of emotional silence. Prevents escalation. Most conflicts spiral because people respond too quickly. A pause breaks the cycle and reduces heat. Builds respect. When you respond calmly, you earn respect, even from those who disagree with you. Enhances clarity. Silence gives your mind time to organize thoughts. Your words come out sharper and more precise. Increases emotional intelligence. Each pause is a practice in self-awareness and self-regulation. The two pillars of emotional intelligence. Strengthens relationships. Silence communicates that you value the relationship more than your impulse to win the moment. Real-life scenarios of the pause in action. In conflict, during a family argument, instead of shouting back, you pause. That moment alone shifts the tone from fight to dialogue. At work, a colleague criticizes your work unfairly. Instead of defending immediately, you pause. Then you ask, "Can you explain what specifically concerns you?" That silence prevented escalation and invited clarity. In negotiations, when someone makes a strong demand, you remain silent for a few seconds. The pause unsettles them, often leading to concessions. In public speaking, a difficult question comes from the audience. You pause. The silence signals thoughtfulness, not weakness. Your eventual answer lands with more weight. Why pausing feels uncomfortable? For many, silence in emotional moments feels unbearable. We want to fill the void quickly, to prove we are competent, to avoid awkwardness. But this discomfort is exactly why silence is powerful. It slows everything down. It forces both parties to think. Consider this. When you resist the urge to fill silence, you project composure. The other person often interprets it as confidence. Techniques for practicing the emotional pause. 1. The deep breath reset. When emotions rise, inhale deeply, hold briefly, exhale slowly. That single breath buys time and calms physiology. 2. The 5-second rule. Count silently to 5 before responding. It feels long, but it's often just enough to cool the heat. 3. Anchor phrases. Instead of reacting impulsively, use neutral placeholders. Give me a moment to think about that. Let me process what you just said. These phrases create silence gracefully. 4. Focus on listening. Direct attention outward instead of inward. While silent, focus on the other person's words, not your own reaction. 5. Grounding through body awareness. Notice your posture, feet, or heartbeat. This mindfulness helps regulate emotions during silence. Silence as emotional self-defense. Silence protects you from your own impulsivity. Think of how many regrets are tied to words spoken too quickly. Angry emails, harsh retorts, rash promises. Pausing prevents those regrets. It is like putting a safety lock on your tongue. The most powerful part. Nobody else controls it. Silence is always available, always under your choice. Common misconceptions about silence in emotional moments. If I don't respond quickly, I'll look weak. In fact, silence projects strength. Quick emotional reactions look weak. Calm restraint looks powerful. Silence means agreement. Not true. Silence means you're thinking. You can disagree firmly after pausing. If I pause, people will lose respect. Actually, they often gain respect because you show composure. Stories of leaders who use the emotional pause. Nelson Mandela. Mandela often paused before answering difficult questions. Journalists sometimes mistook this for hesitation, but his calm, thoughtful answers revealed it was deliberate. Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was known for writing hot letters, emotional responses to critics, but never sending them. That pause between writing and sending saved his reputation countless times. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah, in interviews, often uses silence intentionally after a guest shares something emotional. That pause creates space for vulnerability and truth. Practicing the pause in everyday life. At home, when your child misbehaves, instead of shouting, pause. Breathe. Then choose words that teach, not punish. With friends. When someone shares something painful, don't rush to advise. Pause. Let silence hold their story. In the workplace, when pressured in meetings, pause before committing. It shows you think critically before deciding. Advanced use. The pause in high-stakes communication. Difficult feedback. Silence before giving feedback shows respect for the weight of your words. It also prepares the listener to take them seriously. Crisis situations. Pausing before speaking to media or a team during crisis ensures you project calm, not panic. Negotiations. Strategic silences after offers or counteroffers often unnerve the other side into revealing more. Exercises for building the habit of emotional silence. Exercise 1, the daily pause. Commit to pausing before answering at least 3 emotionally charged questions each day. Exercise 2, reflection journal. After difficult conversations, right? Did I pause? What difference did it make? What would I change? Exercise 3, silent response role play. With a trusted partner, practice mock arguments where you must pause before each reply. Train the reflex. Exercise 4, delayed messaging. Before sending any emotional email or text, write it, then wait 10 minutes. Reread and decide if it still reflects your values. The emotional intelligence connection. Silence and emotional intelligence are inseparable. Daniel Goleman's framework highlights 4 dimensions: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills. Pausing strengthens all 4. Self-awareness. You notice emotions before they erupt. Self-regulation. You control impulses by choosing silence. Empathy. Pausing helps you truly hear the other person. Social skills. Your responses are clearer, calmer, and more effective. The risk of misusing emotional silence. While powerful, silence can be misapplied. Punitive silence. Using silence to punish, e.g., the silent treatment. Damages trust. Avoidant silence. Refusing to respond at all may signal disengagement. Excessive silence. Waiting too long can confuse others or appear evasive. The goal is not to withdraw, but to pause briefly, then re-engage intentionally. The spiritual dimension of the pause. Many spiritual traditions honor silence as emotional mastery. Buddhist monks practice mindful breathing before speaking. Quakers use silent reflection in decision-making. Stoic philosophers advise pausing to align responses with virtue, not impulse. Silence, then, is not just a communication tool. It is a path to inner peace. Closing reflection, silence as strength. The world often equates power with volume, but real strength is measured in restraint. The pause, that small, deliberate silence, transforms impulsive reaction into conscious response. When you practice the pause, you protect your relationships, preserve your credibility, communicate with wisdom instead of emotion. The next time emotions surge, remember, you don't need to answer immediately. You can pause. You can breathe. You can let silence do the work of calming the storm, because in that silence, you reclaim control, and with control, you find freedom.